David, thanks very much for joining me this morning. How do BRG Building Solutions go about gathering the information and the insight which you provide to the bathroom industry?
Okay, yeah, good morning, Tom, and thanks for the time today to discuss this. So BRG, we've been researching the bathroom products market for over 40 years, and during that time, we've expanded our geographical coverage to cover over 60 countries now around the globe, and we focus on around 15 different product categories. All the key ones are covered. The methodology is based on classical empirical market research techniques, and we have a distinct focus on building products and a real specialization on the bathroom products within that. We use a combination of secondary, primary research techniques, which sees us remain in close contact with key stakeholders within the industry. And we conduct regular interviews with manufacturers, distributors, and other influencers regularly, right, always throughout the year. We have a full-time team of research analysts and consultants out of 4 global offices who undertake all of our research in-house, and that helps us to control and closely manage the data we provide, so that everything gets sort of looked at under the same view, which helps us control the intelligence we provide. And then, as well as that, we have an in-house data team which are working with quite sophisticated models, dashboards as we call them, who are producing regular updates throughout the year, so that we ensure our clients have the most actionable data we can provide to help them plan their business and decide on strategy.
So 2020 has been an incredibly strange year. What's the bathroom market looking like in different parts of the world?
Yeah, I mean, understandably, all major markets have of course been severely affected by COVID-19 pandemic, as you'd expect. That's linked to output and the lockdown measures which have been enforced across most countries. Q2 was particularly impacted, linked to weak retail sales, and consumers were forced to stay at home, of course, and therefore home improvements were postponed or shelved, plans for that, and installers not necessarily allowed in dwellings, things like that, certainly all added to that. But we at BRG, we've remained committed to our global program. We wanted to do that at the outset of the year, so we worked hard to continue to collect the data because it's necessary, and certainly in times of such uncertainty. We wanted to provide up-to-date data and reports throughout the course of this year to our clients, including forecasts 5 years out. So if we take a look at the 2 main bathroom product categories in terms of ceramic sanitary ware and taps and mixers, we're expecting a decline in volume terms of around 12% and 10% respectively in 2020, but that's global. Okay, so that's across the 56 countries, and of course each region has different dynamics and different patterns of market development within that. The most prominent declines in percentage terms are reported to be in Australasia, South America, and Asia, all of which we expect to see double-digit declines in 2020. Around 15% will probably be the benchmark in those regions. North America and Europe have held up slightly better, although declines have been more pronounced in some of the developed Western European markets, which is, I think, understandable given the level of market maturity that we have there. So if we look at Europe in particular, it's worth noting that over 80% of demand is accounted for by the top 10 countries, and furthermore within that 50% is within the top 4 countries of Europe. So the UK, I have to say, is the most severely affected within the top 4. We're anticipating a volume decline of around 18% in 2020. That's for ceramic sanitary ware and taps and mixers combined. You'd then have Italy around 14% down. France is 12% down. And notably, Germany appears to have actually withstood the situation the best, with a flat, if not slightly positive performance. Actually, 0.7 is our forecast for the year. So that has actually held up quite well. And the graphics that are prepared sort of show the development in the key regions of the world for these technologies.
So to recovery now, as opposed to kind of performance in 2020, we've heard about different letters being used to describe the shape of the UK recovery. What do you think it's going to look like?
Well, based on our latest data, we expect a V-shaped recovery. Although I think the K-shape that people talk about is also possible, could be possible if we look at the market, or we break it down between residential versus commercial, because I think we will see different rates of or speed of recovery in the two sectors. As mentioned, we see a strong decline in 2020 across all bathroom product sectors and end-use segments. But in turn, we then see a strong recovery in 2021 as the V shape recovery shows. So within that, the sales to residential, we think, are set to recover from 2021 onwards, which will be driven by underlying demand for renovation work within what is a mature housing stock, of course. On the commercial sector, we think it is impacted by the effects of COVID-19, the pandemic, but also uncertainties relating to Brexit and the UK's impending departure from the EU. So activity within the public sector is likely to continue to progress positively, particularly with investment expected in institutional buildings and healthcare, education, healthcare being prominent, of course. However, in the private commercial sector, we think it will be quite hard hit, as there remains uncertainty over the level of capital investment that will be made in the UK and mainly London, given uncertainty of Brexit, and therefore questionable how attractive the UK is for external investment in the country. So we think that remains to be seen. So we're keeping a close eye on that as it goes.
And what about recoveries overseas in different markets?
Yeah, so also V-shaped recoveries, again, as the data shows. Asia, Africa, and then the wider Europe, notably West Europe, have been worst hit, as I said, in terms of percentage decline. Africa, Middle East have sort of probably fared slightly better, but they are less mature markets. Certainly, Africa is very, very much developing anyway, so that always some of the decline. We think all markets will rebound in 2021. There has to be some of the built-up demand, the elasticity coming back. The extent to which the recovery will very much depend on the various countries, the measures that they take to tackle the second wave of COVID-19 and the resulting impact on construction in general and home improvement activity. I think it's worth noting that the recovery in North America is expected to be more gradual, as shown in the slide. We're expecting to see a lesser pronounced uptick, but still a V-shaped recovery. This is, as you'd imagine, heavily impacted by the US, which volumes almost as big as Europe combined. So we're talking big numbers here, of course, in terms of sales in the US. But the bathroom market remains heavily saturated, and RMI activity is suppressed. Housing completions are at a currently low level in the US, and then if you add in the fact that when it's a presidential election year, consumers tend to have other things on their mind, and it's an extended period this time, then the US recovery is expected to be more gradual and drawn out.
So, it's a difficult time, as we both said. What are the top three pieces of market insight which you think BMA members should be paying attention to?
Okay, I think the first one would be the structure of supply and market dynamics. So we're still seeing the share of private label continuing to grow particularly in Europe and in the DIY and wholesale channel. That's quite prevalent. A lot of products being sourced from China and other low-cost countries like India, Egypt as well. And linked to this point, there are then changes in the price mix. We're seeing that. We do report on the market dynamics by price segment, and in most countries we see a growth in the economy and lower end segments of the market in terms of price. But during the last decade and following the crisis of 2009, we'd say there's a general polarization in terms of price segmentation, with shifts towards the low and the high end, with the middle segment being squeezed. So yeah, that would be the first point. I think the second one would be changes in distribution patterns, particularly with a shift towards online selling and e-commerce. It's very much the buzzword at the moment, and of course, with people looking to shop online now, or going looking for online to actually source products, it's becoming more relevant. The UK is the most advanced based on our data and the share of the distribution flow, followed by countries like the Netherlands and the Nordics, also quite advanced in terms of e-commerce and online sales for bathroom and kitchen products. And DIY sales are doing well across Europe, as I say, people are at home and in certain cases have more disposable income to invest in their properties and not spending on holidays or nights out and things like that. So we think that will drive refurbishment and renovation activity going forward. It's one of the key reasons. And then I think the third one and final one would be just to keep an eye on consumer trends and what the latest things that consumers are looking at. We don't dabble in consumer research, but of course we're aware of the key trends, and a lot of these come up in our market discussions. So consumers have a desire for larger shower areas. Wet rooms are becoming increasingly popular. We're seeing a preference for enhanced bathing and showering experiences with things like digital showers, connected bathrooms, rain showers, ceiling showers, music, lights, ambience within the bathroom. And we also see a trend for baths to be back in fashion. And we saw a displacement away from baths towards showers over time in the recent decades, but they seem to be coming back. And whether that's because people want to be able to relax in the bathroom and take a bath again if you have time, but also functional reasons for families with young children. I think it's quite important. The other key trend would be colour. We're seeing a lot of talk about colour in the bathroom, and black in particular as a colour is gaining share and prominence, particularly in terms of faucets and shower enclosures and bathroom accessories. And on the fittings, we're seeing demand and trends with our key clients for the rustic look. So colours like copper, rose gold, brushed steel becoming popular, whereas chrome is perhaps falling out of favour. Also, electronic or touch-free solutions becoming increasingly important, particularly with the need to control the spread of germs in public places, for example, in hospitals. Then we're seeing increasing demand for electronic sensor-operated faucets, for example. And I think finally, the other point would be things like floor-level access shower trays. We've got an aging-in-place type product. With an aging population, there's a lot of move and talk about barrier-free showering and bathing. And certain countries are also adapting legislation and regulations to include such products within the building code. So that should be kept an eye on as well, making sure that these products remain important. Yeah.
David, thanks very much for that insight. It's been great speaking to you this morning. Much appreciated.
Yeah, appreciate your time. Thank you.